Okay, so first order of business is not going very far from where we just were. It's experience related. So previously, if you're familiar with the last few showcases, I've been talking about experience pretty extensively. The big deal with experience that kind of differentiated it from other MMORPGs and everything was that it capped at 1,000. And the difference here between what I had and what most MMOs had was primarily that instead of increasing the EXP cap, I just decreased how much EXP you got. Now, I think that that's okay if you're starting with really high amounts of XP. Like if you're starting at level 0 and getting like literally 10,000 XP or something like that, or with really high levels, right? If you're getting to level 1,000, I think that's okay. The issue is that we aren't dealing with like absurdly high level gain or absurdly high level numbers. Our level cap is basically 100. So instead of it being really enjoyable and everything, it ended up being kind of disappointing. So what I've done instead, and obviously the numbers were very low and nobody likes small numbers. So I've reworked that to use the conventional MMORPG system. I thought about it a lot, and I think that this is the best thing we can do for this. And I've rigged up some of the commands to work a little differently. So /level up, it works contrary to how it sounds. It does not in fact level you up. It just gives you experience. Prior, this would give you 5 levels. Now it gives you 5,000 experience, which is kind of the same thing as what it did before. But anyway, we can see that here. So this updates continually, as you'd probably expect. This is because we're constantly gaining XP because we RP'd recently. So actually, speaking of, the RP activity is saved to files. So I RP'd last time when the server was up last, and obviously now it's ticking over still because my RP activity saved, which is pretty cool. Anyway, we can continue to level up until we hit, or continue to use the command level up until we hit here, and then it rolls back over. Our extra XP is carried over, as you'd probably expect, and we level up and it increases the max cap of XP. So this is really cool. I think that this works a lot better, and I understand why they don't do it the other way now. I'm not going to level up again for some particular reason, but anyway, this tooltip needs to be updated too. Anyway, I just wanted to show that off because it's very different from how it worked before, but I think that it's better overall. And while I haven't been doing changelogs recently that much because I've tried to cram as much as I can into updates, because no one's really going to care that much about the changelogs, except for maybe Zyda. I might do one pretty soon so that I can explain the curve of this. Currently, what this means, what you can expect from this, is if you can expect about 900 to 1,000 XP per post, that means that every level at 68 is about 40 posts. So that's kind of confusing to think about, but essentially every level at this stage is going to take you 40 RPs to get, depending on modifiers and a bunch of other things. And before we move on, I also want to talk a little bit more about that. So if we go here, we can open up the RP window, and this is a sort of multifaceted talk or whatever, because you can see here we have a base gain, so 1. And the reason for that is because if you've watched the streams or the prior showcases, I might have shown it off. Basically, when you first start a character, or if you leave for about a week or more, you get a really big bonus. I think it's 25% extra XP for 10 posts or something like that. It's really large. And we've worn that off. So the base gain is 750, and then it shows us our modifier, which is 1, and then it gives us 750 again. Or rather, that's the ultimate, the total. And you can see that actually in action here. I've allowed us to keep track of that. So we're currently at 2,700. If we do this, you can see we jump up to 3,500, which is fine. It's cool. It's what you'd expect, right? Now, the thing that's different about this that isn't so simple is... Whoops, that's not meant to happen. Oh my god. Okay, so for our first thing today, we're going to talk a little bit about experience and levels. And I've made some pretty big changes here, so I want to talk a little bit at length about them and why I made them. Because, as I just said earlier, I really want to cement these things and make sure that people understand that these won't change very frequently, because that's a very frustrating thing to have to undergo. And I think that experience systems are really critical. I don't think that these should change almost at all, usually, unless there's like a critical error or flaw or bug or something, because that really pisses people off. And previously, if you weren't aware or if you haven't been watching the showcases, which is totally fine, the XP cap was what didn't scale. So currently, you can see clearly that the XP cap is now 40,000, and previously it would always be 1,000. You can see even the tooltip isn't updated yet, but anyway, the reason I changed that is because I realized at really high levels, you'd start getting decimals. You'd start getting literally like zero point 0.5 XP or whatever. And I thought about that, and I thought, maybe I could raise it to be a static 2,000 cap or something, but that's less clean, and it just really wasn't working out past level like 80 to 90, and I didn't want it to be frustrating, right? You want levels to be exciting, you want every time you post to be a fun experience, and that just wasn't happening with how that was happening. So I decided to change that to the more conventional MMORPG method, and I think that this is more rewarding overall, and I hope you guys appreciate that, because I really thought about it pretty hard for a while, and obviously now it's scaling, so we can show that off by leveling up a couple times, or rather, previously this was a level up command, but in reality it just gave you 5,000 experience, which before was 5,000 levels, or sorry, 5 levels, because they're static, right? But now it scales, so 5,000 experience is literally piddling compared to your max cap, but we can do it a bunch, and you can see, there we go. So it rolls over, obviously, as you'd expect. It'd be kind of annoying if it just stole it from you, and the cap actually raises, which is pretty cool too. You can also obviously see that we got some points, but anyway, that's dope. But what I really want to show off right now is the RP system, and I guess not really the system, but the spam catcher. So this is something I've done in a lot of places, and, covering my mouth here to be a little secretive, but not really. I've actually put in a lot of cheat protection recently. That's what I've been working on primarily this week, and that's probably also why I've been kind of quiet. I don't really have much to show off here, or rather, I do have a lot of things to show off, but I can't really show a lot of them off because I don't want people to know exactly how the cheat detection works, for obvious reasons. So a lot of this stuff is just verification, if you're curious. Literally very, very basic, the most basic kinds of verification, where, you're saying, hey, this stat seems to be off, and so on and so forth. The coolest part of this, in my opinion, and I apologize for keeping you guys here in a blank screen, but the coolest part, in my opinion, as I said, is probably that some of the bugs, depending on the criticality of them, will actually message admins. So the Discord bot will alert admins in the Discord chat if a certain kind of bug pops up, and if a certain kind of abuse pops up. So, for instance, ban evasion, and that kind of thing, if it believes an IP is trying to connect or shouldn't be connected or something like that, it will alert admins to that and try to get it resolved. So I'm really happy about that. I think that's really cool, and it was actually pretty easy to implement too. So anyway, like I said, can't really talk a ton about that other than the cool bells and whistles. So we're just going to talk about the spam protection, which is something that literally everyone can test, so there's no point in trying to hide it. Relatively straightforward. First of all, we can see that we have a 1 modifier, because I've actually excuse me, I've actually RP'd enough on this character to get rid of the starting character bonus, which is why it's obviously we aren't getting any bonus at all. This also measures post time now. So previously that was a modifier, but it wasn't actually factored in. So now it factors it in, and that's actually working. So you can get, I think, at max 6% extra XP, which is not insignificant. It's pretty good if you're posting on a regular basis. I believe it's 7 minutes is considered ideal or something like that. I forget. Anyway, we can keep going with this, and if we post too many times too quickly, I believe it's 7.5 seconds is the spam meter, or threshold, you could say. There we go. So it's saying we're posting too quickly, take a breather, you might be muted. What this means is essentially if we post too many times under 7.5 seconds, which is the threshold, it'll start to acknowledge this and add to a counter. Now if we keep posting, so if we go here, and obviously it's not going to warn us this time because we waited more than 7.5 seconds, and we post again, you can see it saves this buffer. So at this point we have 1 added to our spam buffer, and then here nothing happens. In reality it kind of subtracts, but I'll talk about that in a second. And then up here we get another 1 added, and if we try now we won't be warned because we waited, which is what's intended. And if we go really quickly again, it'll warn us again. Now it'll keep warning us until here, so it tells us to take a breather or our next post will get us muted. The important thing here to realize is this thing persists, right? So it's not possible to just post once after waiting and then go back to spam posting. And the reason this is really important, and the reason I've worked on this a bunch, is because there are ways to game it, and I want to make gaming it as hard as possible for obvious reasons. And I've done quite a bit to make it hard. So, for instance, I have duplication posting countermeasures, I guess you could call it. It's a really pretentious term, but I guess it's accurate enough. Turned off currently. However, in the future, this is kind of one of those anti-cheat things that I can't really talk about a ton, or show off a ton at least. That prevents people from posting things that are really similar to one another over and over again. So again, can't really get too specific about that, but it's a thing. And if we go ahead and post, we're not going to get warned again because we waited a while, but if we post again, we'll get muted. So here we go. We've been muted from IC for an hour, blah, 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 which is pretty cool. Now, I believe we can't post now. I think. Yeah, there we go. So this discounts you from all XP gains, so it prevents everything involved with RP posting except for it closing your menu for you. So literally everything outside of you getting this menu off your screen is completely removed if you're muted from IC. So that goes for everything, basically. And if we type say or something, we're muted, so we can't. This is a really harsh punishment, but it should probably be noted that you're not going to get here without knowing what's happening. It literally warns you like 6 or 7 times, so if you're worried about that, I mean, I wouldn't even say you have to be pretty dumb to get to this point. I think that you have to be intentionally trying to bug abuse or something, or trying to exploit it to get to this point. So, you know, I'm not too concerned about that being a huge issue here, but anyway. The reason this is cool is not just because it's sort of pseudo-intelligently deciding when it should mute you. The reason it's pretty cool is because I've reworked mutes, so mutes now actually track durations outside of client connections, which is another really pretentious phrasing, but TLDR, instead of mutes being attached to client objects, which is not to say they're client-side, they're still server-side, but instead of them being, let's say, loaded and saved whenever a client logs on or logs off, we instead just have an object on the server, and that is saved and loaded when the when the sherbet shuts down or reboots back up. So that's a lot less effort on the server's part. It's a lot less effort on my part when I have to interact with it, and it's a lot harder to exploit. So it shouldn't be as easy or really easy at all, if even possible, to mute a void, which is clearly very good. So I'm happy about that. And that goes for OC mutes as well. And we can always, of course, check if you're muted this way. Or, okay, I guess not. That's a work in progress because I recently changed everything. So some of the mute systems still have to be carried over. But anyway, I think that's everything for this. There's a lot of stuff here and a lot of tweaking that I've been doing. I'm really exhausted because this particular clip I've tried to redo a million times. But the cool thing is if we go back here, we can probably, well, no, actually we can't because we're muted. But anyway, it does level you up. So that's cool. And it levels you up and it involves every single system involved. So, you know, the stat points you get, the experience you get from each post, the modifiers you get from each post depending on how long it takes and how many characters you have. The reason we're not getting those for the record is because we are posting literally test. So it's not acknowledging any modifiers. In the future, it should actually disqualify you from any modifiers at all, or rather, it should disqualify you from even the one modifier, meaning you should get nothing if you're posting under a certain threshold. So that's something that has to change, but for the moment, I think it's perfectly okay, and I'm very happy with how it's looking so far. Okay, so unfortunately for you guys, this clip is also pretty boring. It's very stationary and not super action-packed, but, you know, who cares? I'm not really here to entertain you guys. I'm just here to document my progress. Anyway, today I've decided to, or rather this past week, I've decided to spruce up some of the other things in the hotbar. So a bunch of these buttons are fixed up a little bit. There's some very small changes here and there, but the important thing that I really am very happy I fixed is this is no longer capable of screwing up. So previously there was this bug where, and it took me forever to figure this out, but you could mouse over these, and occasionally, it was so random, so hard to depict and figure out and whatever, but I figured it out, and the bug itself was that this would pop back up after you had left the thing, and you would have to mouse over them again to get rid of it. Sometimes it wouldn't even do it then, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the solution to this, which I learned, is that when you mouse over this, it sends a packet to the server, and it tells the server, I need this information about this spell, and that's totally fine because the spell information is public. But anyway, it would send a packet back telling the client, hey, this has all the information you need, all the information you requested, and it would tell it to open this interface, so this little box or whatever, right? The problem with that, and you might be starting to see this, which I find kind of interesting, is when you send the packet, it takes a variable amount of time. If there just happens to be some packet lag there, or any kind of network lag at all, and it takes too long, and your mouse is gone by the time it reaches you, it opens the interface after your mouse has already left, which means that it has no opportunity, or your mouse has no opportunity, to close that interface, because it never, quote-unquote, leaves the hot slot again before it appears. So, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, a lot of coder talk to say, I've just fixed it so that now it doesn't do that if your mouse is already off the thing. So, for instance, like, let's say I mouse over it, and we get the packet, or we send the packet, and it takes forever to receive it, so my mouse is off, and then the packet gets here, and my mouse is way, way, way far off from the hot slot. Thankfully, now, the way it works is my mouse is registered as being off of that hot slot, or what I call the hot slot, the hotbar slot, which means it won't show that interface, which means also that even though that information is a little wasted, you don't get this stupid box in the middle of your window that never leaves you, which is great. That's an issue that I've been struggling with forever, because as you can probably imagine, if I'm testing it locally, my packet or my network lag is extremely minimal. So it's very difficult to ever see that issue come up. Now, you might see the issue here because if I'm on a server, then I get this issue a lot because it's a lot more lag comparatively. So it was driving me crazy, and I'm really happy I fixed it, even if it took forever to figure out. It's been a thing for weeks now. But anyway, that's not really the cool thing. The cool thing that I think is neat here is the little box has a marker for cooldowns and mana now, which is dope, I think. It's something it definitely needed, because you can't really fit everything into the description, and because it's a fixed size box, the description itself can get kind of long, kind of too long, actually. So I felt like that was necessary, and I'm happy I went the way I did with it. Now it's just a little clock and a little mana tier thing. And you'll notice that a lot of them are just 10 mana. That'll change in the future. Another thing I've done recently is, you can't see it currently because they're all worth nothing, but you can see all of them cost nothing. But I've not reworked, sorry, I love that word too much. I've actually adjusted a ton of numbers, so a lot of the spells have been shuffled around, so much so that I might not even be able to keep them on the changelog. That's coming soon, TM. But TLDR, I've just destroyed everything in an attempt to seek out some form of balance. So I'm really hype about that. Even if it is mind-numbing sometimes trying to go through, and don't get me wrong, I love balancing spells, but, you know, balancing 100 and something spells is pretty difficult sometimes. So, anyway, this clip is not too exciting, but I wanted to show some stuff off anyway and tell you what I've been doing with spells, so I hope you enjoy that. And in a second here, we're going to talk a little bit more about spells upcoming, I guess you could say, and some of the new FX I've gotten done from Doom. So look forward to that, and we'll talk a little bit about map assets after. Okay, so a couple things. First of all, Past Roomy is an idiot, and despite the fact that I segment all of my videos into clips, which makes them more confusing to watch but easier for me to edit, I didn't look at the length of the clips and thus didn't realize that we could not talk about something after this clip because it's really long already. It's like almost 20 minutes, but anyway, we do have enough time to talk about the FX, which is all that really matters to me. So if you don't know, Doom is one of the artists that has been working on this game, obviously paid, and along with Howell and Wilson, he's been working on specifically spells a lot of the time, the FX and everything, and recently we've actually reached a point where we're kind of comfortably sitting on quite a bit of spell effects. So we don't really need that many. However, a lot of the ones we do have are very lackluster. Like Cleanse doesn't even have one. A lot of them are particle based and stuff like that. So for some of them that's okay, like Raging Sun and Overcharge, but for others I really want a custom effect. So I decided to get a couple of those made, and the one you're looking at right now is, I believe, Graceful Step. So that's the wind utility spell. And this is another version, which is, it doesn't have this ring pulse, so that might be used for something else maybe, I'm not sure. And we also have Cleanse, which is just a very quick, I might slow this down actually, but it's just a little quick water halo popping up and then washing down the player, which is totally cool, and I'm very happy about that. And in the coming months, question mark, plural maybe, I'm not sure, I don't really know. We have enough money for this, so it's more of just like a, do I want to spend this on map assets, or do I want to spend this on reworked FX? I'm not sure. But anyway, in the coming months I might get this one done as well. This is Bubble Prison, and it looks okay. It's not bad art, right? And the animation is fine. However, it does not fit the rest of the game, which is the important thing and the reason that I want to get it redone. So even though it's okay, and even though I do enjoy the artist and the art, who I no longer work with that much just because, you know, the style doesn't really match that well, I do think that it needs to be redone, so we'll probably get that done sometime soon. And this puddle is, it's alright. This is the spawning animation for the record, but it also might be worth redoing, I'm not sure. Anyway, not a big deal. I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on what I've been doing asset-wise, because, again, we don't have enough time to talk about map assets at length, but to the mappers watching this, they will be coming soon, so don't worry about that. I'll fix up the map editor and everything, but other than map assets, I've been doing my best to get some of the worst effects in the game, or rather some of the ones that have been lacking effects, their own custom things, so that you have those there. And of course, we can always repurpose them in the future to do other stuff, which is fantastic. That's always fun. Anyway, I think that's all for today. I apologize if I sound exhausted, because I am exhausted. I've been up for way too long, and I have had to remake like half the showcase so far, so I apologize if I'm slurring a little bit. I am very tired. However, this is genuinely my favorite part of the week. I love talking about what I've been doing, and I appreciate you guys being so patient. I apologize about last week. I know I was pretty quiet about that, just everything overall. Or maybe I wasn't. Maybe it was just me, because I usually am pretty quiet anyway, but still, you know, I understand. It's I just overall, I really appreciate you guys doing what you do and being patient and waiting and everything, and still, you know, keeping up the Patreon pledges and everything. It means a ton to me, because despite me being quiet, this is my passion project, so I work on it all the time, 24/7. Even if I am not the most sociable person once every couple months. You know, it's my recharge week. But anyway, again, I love you guys for watching. I meant to say I hope you guys enjoyed, but that works too. And I hope you guys appreciate what I'm doing, and I hope you look forward to the launch. It's coming soon. And next week, or rather this coming week, I should have more clothing stuff. And the clothing stuff is what is proceeding. Literally just that clothing conversion is what's holding us back from a more public test. So I will do that this week. I will do the map assets this week. We will get maps done. We will get testing done, probably week after next. And we will get that beta out there. We will get that bread, for lack of a better phrasing. Anyway, hope you guys look forward to all that jazz that I just talked about, and I'm not going to repeat. And I hope you have a great day and a great week.